We mere humans, tiny grains of sand in an immensity, are practically insignificant in the face of the universe's infinity. Yet, we've ventured into space since October 4, 1957, when the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite to orbit Earth. Progress in space travel since then has been astounding, including the fierce competition between the United States and the Soviets to launch a crewed mission to the Moon. On July 20, 1969, humanity achieved the impossible. Then, on December 14, 1972, Apollo 17's commander became the last person to walk on the Moon. His final words on Earth's natural satellite were profound. "As I take man's last step from the surface back to home for some time to come, but we believe not too long into the future, I believe history will record that America's challenge of today has forged man's destiny of tomorrow. And as we leave the Moon at Taurus Littrow, we leave as we came, and, God willing, as we shall return, with peace and hope for all mankind. Godspeed, the crew of Apollo 17. But why haven't humans ever returned there? If we achieved this feat in the 1970s with far fewer resources than we have today, surely it would be even easier now, right? Or not? Prepare to uncover the hidden truth behind one of space exploration's greatest mysteries. Welcome to Young Curiosity, where we unravel the mysteries that shape our world. If you're fascinated by the biggest questions in space and history, you're in the right place. Please, take a moment to smash that like button, subscribe to Young Curiosity for more mind-bending insights, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring these incredible topics to life. First, you need to better understand the context of the era when humans first walked on the Moon. This happened during a period of intense political hostility between the Soviet Union and the United States, a period famously known as the Cold War. For several years, superpowers fiercely competed to develop increasingly advanced missiles, specifically intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, capable of transporting nuclear weapons across continents. This dangerous arms race extended beyond Earth's atmosphere, reaching its peak in what became known as the space race. The competition between the two countries reached a fever pitch with the launch of Sputnik. This satellite was capable of sending radio transmissions after reaching space. Sputnik orbited Earth once every 96 minutes, and its distinctive radio beeps could be detected on the ground as the satellite passed overhead. People worldwide knew it was truly in orbit, sparking both awe and fear. Perceiving that the Soviet Union possessed space capabilities that exceeded American technologies, the United States became profoundly concerned about a potential missile gap. Just a month later, on November 3, 1957, the Soviets undertook an even bolder space venture. They launched Sputnik 2, carrying a living being, the dog Laika, into orbit, demonstrating their advanced life support systems. Before these Soviet successes, the United States had been attempting to launch its own satellite, suffering two public failures. They only achieved success with a rocket carrying a satellite called Explorer-1 on January 31, 1958. Curiously, the United States achieved this feat with the crucial help of German rocket engineers, who had previously developed advanced V-2 missiles for Nazi Germany during WW-2. In 1958, all space exploration activities in the United States were consolidated under a new governmental agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. The space race continued to escalate. The Soviets continued to lead, not only launching the first artificial satellite and the first dog into space, but also putting the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into space in April 1961. Just 3 weeks later, on May 25th, President John F. Kennedy publicly challenged the United States to an ambitious goal, declaring, "I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out, of landing a man on the Moon and returning him safely to the Earth." This vision for the United States wasn't just about scientific interest in exploring the Moon, but profoundly about getting ahead of their primary geopolitical rival. As I said, the world was living through the Cold War, and allowing the Soviets to dominate this new frontier was simply not an option. What do you think was the biggest motivation for the moon landing, science or politics? Let us know. The Soviets continued their impressive string of firsts. Besides Gagarin, they achieved other space milestones ahead of the United States. These included Luna 2, which became the first human-made object to impact the moon in 1959, a significant propaganda victory. Shortly after Gagarin's flight in 1961, a second Soviet human mission, Vostok 2, orbited cosmonaut German Titov around Earth for a full day. The Soviet Union also conducted the first spacewalk and launched the Vostok 6 mission, which made Valentina Tereshkova the first woman to travel into space. Interestingly, the 1960s would prove to be NASA's golden age. In 1969, with Apollo 11, the United States finally sent the first astronauts to the moon, and Neil Armstrong became the first human to step on its surface. During these lunar missions, astronauts collected invaluable samples of lunar rocks and dust, which scientists still meticulously study today to learn about the moon's formation and history. Furthermore, after achieving the monumental feat of putting a human on the moon, NASA also launched a series of space probe satellites that successfully studied Venus, Mars, and Mercury. Given this entire history, you must be wondering, what does all this have to do with humans not returning to the moon? At the time, the United States urgently needed to get ahead of the Soviet Union because the world's two biggest superpowers were locked in a fierce, costly struggle for dominance, the famous space race. So the United States had a strong, compelling reason to invest enormous financial resources to achieve the incredible feat of putting a man on the moon. The problem is, sending humans to the moon is extremely expensive, and frankly, there wasn't a sufficient scientific justification to continue massive investments in moon missions once the political goal was achieved. The Apollo program was an astounding technical and human triumph, but from a purely scientific standpoint, its immediate productivity after the initial landings was limited relative to its colossal cost. It was a political victory, not primarily a scientific endeavor. So does this mean humans have no plans to return to the moon? But recently, NASA announced the Artemis mission, named after Apollo's sister in Greek mythology. The program is divided into three main parts. The first, Artemis 3, was the successful uncrewed launch of the Orion spacecraft for a test flight to lunar orbit. The second stage, Artemis 2, scheduled for 2024, will involve a crewed flyby of the moon, aiming to observe the functioning of systems and equipment with humans aboard. Finally, the third part of the mission, Artemis III, will see humans landing on the moon again, currently projected for 2025. The core objective of Artemis is to deepen research regarding our natural satellite and the early solar system. It also aims to increase astronauts' time in space as a crucial part of preparation for a much larger future mission to planet Mars. Furthermore, with the advanced technologies we possess today, this return to the moon will be far more scientifically productive than anything done in the 1960s and 1970s. We can summarize that humans simply didn't return to the moon because there was no compelling interest at that point. Now, with ambitious plans to go to Mars, the moon could serve as a vital laboratory, a kind of cosmic training ground for humans to learn how to live and operate for extended periods in deep space. The fact is, in the near future, we will have humans on the moon again, and many people are eagerly awaiting that moment. And you? What do you think about humanity's return to the moon? I'll leave it here. A big hug. Bye.